Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to your ninth UDK tutorial, and in this tutorial I'm going to be teaching you guys how to change the shape and size of your red builder brush right here. So I know what you guys are saying. Alright, Bucket, you already taught me that like two tutorials ago. Anytime you want to change the size of it, just go to the scaling mode right here and stretch it to make it bigger or smaller, or if you want to stretch it in one direction, select this mode, yada yada yada. Well, that's great and all, and you can do that. But anytime you want to get a precision exact size, that's not the best way to do so. In order to change the shape and size of this red builder brush, what we're going to want to do is select the shape we want. I'm going to be working with the cube in this tutorial, and right click right here. Whenever we right click it, our options menu is going to pop up, and it allows us to change the size to get an exact specific size. Now let me go ahead and change this. Say I'm building a game and I want to give my user or the player a floor to walk around on. Well, let's go ahead and change the size to 1024 by 1024 by 16 or something. That's going to give us a nice flat floor right there. So let's go ahead and click CSG add to actually add some mass and give us a floor. Pretty cool, huh? So with that being said, let me say this. Before I jump in anything else, I want to tell you guys why I decided to choose those numbers. I mean, 1024 and 16 sound like pretty random numbers, right? Well, check this out. Anytime we're working outside the perspective view, we see these graphs right here. See these little checkboxes right here? Well, they aren't just there for the fun of it. They actually symbolize units. Now, you can change what unit they show by changing the size of your drag grid. You can change it to something small like 2, and then you have small little boxes, or something big like 64, and then you get big boxes just like that. So basically, we want to choose a number that corresponds with the graph, because that way, whenever we're lining stuff up, we can precision it exactly how we want it to. Pretty cool, huh? So let me go ahead and zoom out here and show you guys that if I chose a number like 1,000 or 500, then it wouldn't go into this graph evenly and it wouldn't line up with the edges. So that's why, depending on what size of your graph is, you want to choose numbers that correspond with that. So that being said, let me move on. Now, for the next part of this tutorial, I'm going to create another shape because it's probably going to be easier to see. So let me go ahead and right click my red builder brush and change it back to, let me go ahead and change it everything to 512 so we get a nice square cube. And click this, and let me go ahead and just move this around. Let me move it around so it actually just sits right on top, and actually move it around a little bit like right there or something. Now let me go ahead and build this, and as you can see, we basically get a cube on a flat sheet right here. Now let me go ahead and actually move my red builder brush out of the way. Just move that right out of the way. And I want to talk to you guys about these two different modes. Now, I know before, and it was probably 4 tutorials ago or 5 or something, I told you guys that brush wireframe and wireframe mode were pretty similar I mean, but they were different in one different way. Now is the time that we can cover that. Let's go ahead and switch to brush wireframe mode in your perspective view. And as you can see, kind of as expected, everything turns to this wireframe mode. Okay, that makes sense. Brush wireframe mode, turn my brushes to wireframe mode. Simple enough. So now you're saying, alright, when I click this, it's probably going to look pretty much the same. Well, wireframe mode changes everything to polygons, and we can't edit everything. Check it out, we can't move this stuff around. Now, let me explain to you guys what's going on. Brush wireframe mode changes everything to wireframe, specifically your brushes. Wireframe mode, this one right here, only changes meshes, and I know I didn't talk to you guys about what a mesh is, static meshes, different types of meshes, but in the upcoming tutorials we're going to be learning about these things called meshes, and what this mode does is it only changes your meshes to wireframe. So these brushes right here are not meshes, so that's why it does not put those in wireframe mode. And by the way, just a quick little tutorial, what's going on right here is what your computer is doing is it changes all these shapes to polygons, because whenever your computer sees 3D, it doesn't really see 3D like you and me see 3D. It has to change everything to polygons first, and then that's how it sees 3D. So, that's just a nice little side note. You don't even have to remember that really, because your computer takes care of all that. But that's the basics difference between brush wireframe and wireframe. So with that being said, let me go ahead and get a new document out, or new level, new scene, whatever you want to call it. And I want to talk to you guys lastly about something called brush order. Now, before I do that, let me say this. Look at our world right now. It's black, it's empty, it's the beginning of time, nothing is there at all. So, say we wanted to go ahead and create a subtracted brush. We would go ahead and hit this, and now if we go ahead and move our red brush builder out of the way, we can see in this top view, or excuse me, this front view right here, and the top view, and the side view, that we get a subtractive brush. Basically what we're saying is this. Okay, UDK, we have a universe where nothing exists. There we go, can't talk today. So we're basically telling you to take nothing away from nothing. So what we have left with is nothing. So we kind of are left where we started from. So now let's go ahead and, this universe is getting kind of bland. So in our front view, let's go ahead and move this over and, move it over just to take a nice little chunk out of it. So now let's go ahead and whenever we add something, you're saying, alright, well, let me change this back to lit mode. So as you can see in our world right here, this may look a little different than you expected, because if I took my red builder brush and moved it out of the way, look what's going on in this front view right here. First, we have this additive brush right here, which adds mass, but we have this subtractive brush overlaying it. So it might be a better view from down here. So basically you're saying, alright Bucky, how come if you have an additive brush right here, which means add mass, and you have a subtracted brush right here, which means take away mass, it's not taking away the mass. So first thing you're going to say is this. Oh, alright Bucky, you didn't fool me. You told me in the last tutorial anytime you want to update your geometry, you need to rebuild it. So if I rebuild this geometry, then you should see a chunk taken out of this. So let's go ahead and rebuild it. Okay, it's rebuilt. No chunk being taken out still. Kinda weird. Well, the reason that there is not a chunk being taken out of our mass is because of this. It has to do with brush order. The very first thing we did is we built an empty space and then we added mass to it. So therefore we have our entire mass right here. Before, in the last tutorial, what I did is I built a chunk of mass and then I was able to take something away from it. So it has to do with how you order your brushes. Again, if you have an empty space and you add a block of wood to it, you're going to have that block of wood. That's what we did in this tutorial. However, if we have a block of wood and then we take out a chunk from it, we're going to have a block of wood with a chunk taken away. Do you get what I'm trying to say? It has to deal with the order of your brushes. So if you're not getting your results, this is the case. So you're saying, alright, that's what brush order is. How do we change the order of our brushes? Well, what we want to do is we want to say this. Alright, we want to build this additive brush first, build this chunk of mass first, and what we want to do is we want to build the subtracted brush last instead of building it first like we just did. So in order to do that, go ahead and right click your subtracted brush and go ahead and let me see if I can find order. Go ahead and put order to last. Now, instead of the UDK building the subtracted brush first, it's going to build it last. Now whenever we rebuild our geometry, check it out. It's going to build this mass first, and then it's going to take a chunk away from it instead of, just creating a void empty space and adding a chunk to it. It's going to create the chunk first and then take space away from it. So that's your basics of brush order. I know it's kind of weird to twist around your head, adding nothing to nothing, then something to nothing, then something from nothing. Oy, oy, oy. But, but that's the basics of it. If you're not getting your results, change your brush order. So that's all I want to talk to you guys about in this tutorial, how to change the size of your brushes, how you can change your size of your brushes depending on what grid size you're working with, and also the difference between brush wireframe and wireframe mode, and lastly, your brush order. So with that being said, we're ready to move on to the next topic. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.